Hello, wrestling fans. Welcome to Falls Count Anywhere. I'm your host, the gentleman Jody Paolo. With me, as always, is the mad scientist Mike Buchanan. And it looks like the lights are back on, buddy. The government's still shut down, but I mean, is there a little life in the lab there? What's going
Well, there's a
on?
little bit of life in the lab. I'm just a little bit more casual because if the government's not watching me. But
The
on that
cat's away, the mice will play.
yes, on the light note that you mentioned, you know, some of us can't go to the gym as often as we want, or as often as maybe our significant others would want. So what I've been developing here lately, gentlemen, is a T-shirt that will custom fit to your body, except when it does, it'll automatically give you six-pack abs. So you don't have to go to the gym.
So you get the look
And none of the
without the
blood,
pain.
sweat, and agony, no sir.
No, sir. Yeah, I love that one, man. I'd take that in a heartbeat. I find 2 hours back in my day that I don't have to be sweating it out at the gym. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. I love that. Okay, well, we're gonna have to get a prototype on that one.
Yep,
Send it to me. I will put it on, and
and
I'll, I
moderate.
will I will be your guinea pig, your test rat in the lab.
I will do that as soon as we have one that's been cleared by the DEA.
Oh, good luck with that. With the government shutdown, yeah, we'll never get it. Ah. Oh man, well listen, that sounds fun. But speaking of things getting cleared, it looks like we are cleared to talk about a little bit of the WWE. And of course, as fans, as you know, this show recorded prior to the weekend, so we do not know what is going to happen on Saturday night's main event. I'm sure it will be utterly ridiculous and make no sense whatsoever. But knowing that today, as of this recording, is prior to that, I think we ought to do a couple of predictions there. What do you say, Mikey?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, right now on the WWE.com, there are 4 matches that are slated for Saturday night's main event. I don't know if they'll add to it come SmackDown Friday night prior to Saturday night's main event, but we've got the 4 matches. Let's talk quickly about all of them. And I'm going to start with Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre. I mentioned this a little bit last week. My opinion is if Drew McIntyre loses this match, this is a total waste of time because we've seen this before. And it's like Triple Paul is too scared to pull the trigger on anything these days. And we're getting the same things booked over and over. I think Cody wins because that's how bad I think the booking and the creative is here. But if you really want to shake things up, put that title on Drew McIntyre and let the Scottish Warrior run with it. What do you say, buddy?
Well, I don't know if I talked about it last week on the show, or if it's just something you and I talked about off camera. With the way WWE is booking themselves, here's my nightmare scenario. SmackDown, something happens on SmackDown. That match becomes a three-way, with the third member being Jimmy Uso. Uso then wins the belt, and you have a feud with Jimmy and Jey Uso over the championship belts because reasons.
So you just gave away your prediction for the CM Punk Jey Uso match. Then you still think Jay's going to win?
I do.
See, I'm of the opinion that CM Punk's going to walk away with the title. I don't think. I don't think they pull that trigger with Jay again. I think they tried that experiment. It did not go well. I don't see Jey Uso ever holding a world title again,
Well,
unless
that would be
something.
ideal. I'm not saying I want this to happen.
I know. I don't give a lot of credit to WWE and their creative here lately. It just seems like it has just been stagnant, stale ever since they moved to Netflix. It has been just and really ever since this TKO purchase. And I know I think I sent you something in a message about Maven Back from Tough Enough Maven, making the comment that WWE is worse off now that Vince is not at least influencing the booking. And, I don't know if Maven watches the show, but you and I have been saying that for a while now, Mike.
Yeah, I think we should thank Maven for his viewership and
leave
him
Maven,
an open invitation. If you ever want to come on, Maven, we'd love to have you.
Come on, let's talk. Let's talk a little WWE, Maven. We'd love to have you on. I know you're watching because you stole our takes. Now, So I'm thinking CM Punk wins the world title, and that leads to WrestleMania with Braun Breaker, and I do think that's either going to come in the form of Braun Breaker winning the Royal Rumble, or someone else winning the Royal Rumble and choosing the other championship to go after and setting up Braun Breaker and CM Punk at WrestleMania. I do think they want to slow play a little bit of Braun, and I think that comes to fruition at WrestleMania. Two other matches. Let's talk triple threat. Dom, Penta, Rusev, Intercontinental title. I know you're intrigued.
Yeah, 2 words. Oh, Rusev.
You got Rusev, huh? I wouldn't be surprised because he's so big and he is dominant. If it were me, and it's not, but if it were me, I would continue to slow play this Dominic Mysterio getting away with retaining the title, and not in a Miz way, the way that they played Miz when he was the world champion, because that was botched and butchered because he was not looking strong in any of this. So for Dom, what I like is kind of the Eddie Guerrero way, right? Lie, cheat, steal. I like the fact that Dom picked up a pinfall. I want to see him picking up pinfalls. So, I want to see some dirty way that Dom gets over and then pins Rusev or pins Penta. And, that's kind of the way it's been in the past with Dom. And I like that. I like kind of that Eddie Guerrero style. I think it gets him over. I think Dom retains, and I think it's through some nefarious ways. The one I know that you are absolutely looking forward to is the Tiffany Stratton Jade Cargill match.
Well, we've talked about this before. I do have sometimes biological needs, and that's what I'm counting on to relieve my biological needs during this TV event.
Drink a lot of water before that match comes on, buddy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Do they pull the trigger here and put the title on Jade?
Probably.
I think so too. I think they will. I think it'll go badly. I think she'll have it for about 2 or 3 months. She'll probably lose it either at the, I would guess maybe at the Rumble, if they even put her match on the Rumble, which is questionable. But yeah, good luck with that. That's all I can say.
Speaking of questionable, I hear you were thrilled by Monday Night Raw's main event, Chief.
Here's the thing about last week's Raw is you had a main event match in Braun Breaker and LA Knight that we really haven't seen, because we saw Braun and Bronson versus the Usos over and over and over again. And I'm not saying I don't want the Brawns in the main event or one of the Brawns in the main event. But you had a main event match in LA Knight and Braun Breaker, which Braun Breaker won clean. So if you're LA Knight, what are you even doing in the WWE anymore? It's obvious they're not going to book you as champion. You are a little bit lower than Jey Uso on the pecking order. And I think, I personally think it's a bad move. I think LA Knight should be in the mix. He should be champion. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And now he's putting Braun Breaker over. That's why I believe that Braun Breaker and CM Punk are headed for a collision course, because of the way that ended. But then they go with a main event on Raw of the women's tag team title. Now, listen, I told you before, if you're going to have a women's tag team title, I am fine with it being Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. I think those are 2 top tier female wrestlers in the business. But you're pitting them against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria in the main event? Really? And I know it's to get to get the Kabuki Warriors out there. Yeah, sorry, just not a fan. Sorry,
Well, you know,
it's just not worth even mentioning.
is that
And
like
you're
a
setting
trap?
up.
Is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, kinda. I've always kind of liked Asuka a little bit, but I don't like what this Kyrie Zane being her basically her servant in this
Yeah.
team. You've started something there with Io Sky, and now where did that go? Where is that? How does that play into this? It's all over the board booking, and I'm not about it. And that match never should have been the main event. Raw was kind of a disaster anyway, and I would have been. It would have been better off to have. Certainly it would have been better off to have Braun and LA Knight in that main event. But even Finn and Sheamus, or not Finn and Sheamus, JD and Sheamus, that was a good match. That was a good match, and that Spanish fly off the top rope was incredible. But that tag team match, not the main event. Come on, give me a break. Speaking of breaks, Mike, we're going to take one, and when we come back, we're going to pay homage and tribute to our good friend Bobby Horn, Sir Mo from the WWF. Stay tuned, fans. We'll be right back. Hello, wrestling fans. The gentleman Jody Powell here, and you may be wondering, where in the world did WFC go? Right here. We're on YouTube, our very own channel at Wrestling for Christ WFC. I want you to open your YouTube app. I want you to click on the search function. Type in Wrestling for Christ WFC, all one word, and boom, that's exactly what you'll see. Smash that subscribe button so you'll be notified when new episodes of Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour are loaded up to YouTube. Also coming soon are going to be exclusive interviews, promos. I might even cut a promo myself. Talk about how Dylan Dollar swings a chair like a girl. All this and more coming up, fans, right here on our YouTube channel. Check it out. Wrestling for Christ, WFC, every episode ever made of Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour, right there at your fingertips. Check it out. Welcome back, fans, to Falls Count Anywhere. And as we said, we are going to spend the rest of our show here honoring the life of Bobby Horn, better known to wrestling fans as Sir Mo from Men on a Mission. And we're excited to have Dante Smiley with us. Dante, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. How y'all doing, fellas?
We're doing all right. We're doing good. Dante, I met Dante earlier this year at a show that we did along with Bobby in Columbia, South Carolina. And wanted to get your perspective, Dante, just a little bit about Bobby and the relationship. Tell us a little bit about how you met Bobby, what kind of how he kind of influenced your career, and how he shaped you as a professional wrestler.
Yeah, most definitely, man. So, like, Bobby and I have been working with each other since essentially, like, SOAR started in Texas, SOAR Wrestling Worldwide, formerly known as SOAR Championship Wrestling, which I think it started in 2016, maybe late 2015, but definitely 2016. And I was in the tag team at that time. And real good tag team. My partner, Ty Wilson, and I were his tag team champions 2 different times. Had some very good runs for him. But it wasn't really until like 2019, early 2019, where I was part of this stable called Dot Mob Fight. It was called Dot Mob Fight Team. And Bobby sat down with me one time, and it might have been a couple others. I can't really remember, fully, but he was telling us like how hard it is to make it as a group in the wrestling business coming from the Indies. He was like, groups are cool on the Indies, but he was like, a lot of the time it's hard to get signed as a group from the Indies. He was like, somebody has to kind of like take the ball and run with it and try to make it first, and then reach back, and what we call the ladder effect. Reach back down the ladder and pull the next person up if you can, if you get yourself to have the opportunities to be able to do so. And I was one of the ones that took that challenge, man. So in 2019, going into 2020, when COVID happened, we had to obviously shut everything down for a little bit. He stripped everybody of the titles that everybody had to literally just like rework the whole organization at that time coming back from COVID. And when we were doing that, over that time that we were out is when he really talked to me about what he saw in me, which is as much as I saw in myself. And he was one of the first people to see as much as me as I did. You know what I mean? Because I've always had extreme confidence in everything that I've done and everything that I do. But it's very rare for somebody to match that confidence. And he matched that confidence. And so that was the moment that he gave me the ball and started running with it. And I mean, he was just a great mentor. A lot of people think he trained me, and he didn't train me. He mentored me and talked to me about a lot of game in and outs, just giving me different perspectives on stuff that I may have not had a good perspective on, or how my perspective can be better, or hey, this is how the game is. This is what you might run into. This is how you can do that, man. And it was fruitful both for both of us. You know what I mean? The perspective and changes. He's the one that got me to go from tights to wearing trunks and showing more of my body. He was like, one day we were talking, and he was like, man, he was like, you do all that working out to hide your legs. He was like, why don't you get in some trunks and throw them legs off? You know what I mean? And but it's like, all jokes aside with it, man, get in the trunks completely changed everything for me, man. That's like, it was started getting on AEW more, NWA. Traveled out the country about 6 times, 7 times over the last few years and whatnot. And a lot of good and prominent stuff started happening that changed the trajectory of my career, even outside of like all the big name people that I faced over that time, man. And like I say, if it wasn't for him, I don't know if I would have gotten that opportunity to really show what we knew that I could do to the whole wide world. But he gave me that opportunity, and now the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said there, that, there's a difference between training and mentorship. Training, taking bumps, doing bump drills and mat drills and all that kind of stuff. It takes a special person to teach you how to do those things.
Right.
Got to learn from the right people how to bump and all that. But, the mentorship part of it, and just being able to tell the story in the ring, making sure that what you do in the ring makes sense. I mean, I would imagine that he was absolutely just a treasure trove of knowledge, coming from his career, starting in the Carolinas, working his way up to the WWF, and then starting organizations like SOAR and OIWA. I remember talking with Bobby, and I think it was OIWA that he started from his hospital bed when he was
Correct.
sick.
It was, yeah.
And just laying there thinking through how the business used to be, the old NWA territories. He was telling me that's what he wanted to bring back.
Yep.
And
he did.
And he did. He absolutely did. And along with it, he brought a lot of talent, including you, under his wing. Tell me what is, if you had one thing to say, this is the most important thing I learned from Bobby, what would it be?
Ooh, I got to go in the treasure chest a little bit. I would say, man, the one thing that I learned from Bobby, for me personally, and I mean, it may not work for everybody, but like for me personally, he always told me to trust my instincts. And I say that to say there was times where, I might send an email to AEW, or I might, like when CYN was going on, that was ran by EC3 and Braun Strowman. I remember when I was writing that email, it was a very, what I call, bravado and a little bit egotistical email, but I wanted to stand out with the email, and I knew how Three was and what he looked for, and I sent it to Bobby, and he looked at it. He said, I wouldn't tell a normal person to send this. He was like, but you being you, he was like, I don't see why you shouldn't send it. He was like, because nobody else has the confidence to send an email like this. And so I did, man. And so for me, it was always just trust your instincts, dude. He was like, you know what you have, show the world that you have it. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to be able to do so, and always just trust yourself through the process. And throughout that, understand that you can do everything right, and it still may not matter. It was like, you only have so much control over what you have control over. So regardless of how good you are, how good I think you are, how good anybody else does, he was like, you only have so much control on how other people view you. So understand that just because you may not get signed doesn't mean you don't have the skills or the talent to be able to get signed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such good advice, and as part of being a mentor is being able to recognize when you can give advice to some people and when you can't.
Right.
And like you said, he said, I wouldn't tell anyone else this, but I'll tell you, you should send it, because he knew you. I mean, that's part of that mentorship. Well, fans, when we come back from this break, we want to dive right into Finding Tomorrow. And of course, that's a segment that we that Mike and I always say is our favorite segment of the show, talking about being a Christian in this broken world. So Dante, when we come back, I want to talk about Bobby's faith, how that influenced you, and what you're doing now as well with some of your mission work. We'll talk about all that on the other side. Fans, stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
You don't have to fight in the ring to know what it takes to rise after a crushing blow, to stand tall when the world seems to close in. Our mission is simple at Ephesians Pro Wrestling, to cultivate a community that stands strong together, because Scripture reminds us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities in the darkness. Our heart is this, that we stand alongside you wherever you are, and wherever you're watching, from city streets to distant shores. We're fighting this fight beside you. Our hope is to bring truth to all who see and hear what we stand for, that you too can face your battles with determination and strength through Jesus Christ.
Welcome back, fans, to this special tribute to longtime professional wrestler Bobby Horn, better known as Mo from Men on a Mission. We are blessed to have our new friend Dante Smiley with us. And Dante, before the break, we talked about how Mo influenced your career.
Right.
Sorry, struggling for words. But what kind of an impact did he have on you from a spiritual standpoint?
It's funny because like Bobby and Ollie didn't talk. We talked more about my spirituality than his for the longest time. And then when we took that trip to Carolina earlier this year to go to Jody's show that I was on, he took me to his hometown. He showed me where he grew up, because a lot of people don't know he was a youth minister earlier in his career. He showed me the small church that he did some youth ministry at, showed me the projects that he grew up in. And that was the last trip that he actually ended up taking as well. And it was so special because, as sick as he was, throughout that trip, we talked way less about wrestling as we did our beliefs and our faith and stuff like that. And I was sharing him because, I preach at this thing called the Prayer Garden here out in Texas in North Richland Hills and stuff. We throw this little fellowship event, not a little, but we throw this fellowship event about once every 2 or 3 months around specific holidays and whatnot. And so we were talking about that, and he was asking me my perspective on some biblical truths, as I would call them, because he knew that I don't really like sugarcoat what the Bible says. I take it as truth, and like what it says goes to me, and I operate by that. And he was just wanting my perspective on stuff, man. And we had a heart to heart for 3 or 4 straight days, that we were out there. And he told me before he was passing, number one, that was one of the best trips out of all his wrestling trips that he's taken because of that reason. And number two, he learned from me about faith and spirituality and Jesus and what it means to believe biblical truth way more than, I learned from him or that I could get from him, just because he was seeking my perspective, because he knew how deep rooted I was into it. And it was just a beautiful moment that we got to share, man. But I think it was mutual because it allowed me to kind of flex what I know a little bit as well. You know what I'm saying? To challenge him and whatnot, and have good discussion on some opposing views or perspectives on certain verses and scriptures and stuff like that, man. But it was a great trip to be able to do that with one another.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to hear that he said that trip was one of the best of his career, because
For sure.
That I just got to play a small part in it, and the time that I spent with him at the show, and the time, and some of the interviews that I did with him, just listening to Bobby talk about kind of his entire life, what he went through. You mentioned growing up, what he being an African American in the WWF at that time was not an easy thing.
Right.
There were a lot of roadblocks, and he talked about those and he shared those and how they strengthened not only his faith but his character.
Correct.
And you know, I found that to be just one of the most endearing interviews that I've ever done with anyone, and had so much respect for Bobby walking away from that. Dante, when you think about Bobby in terms of his influence in on you, and in turn your influence on him from a spiritual perspective, what are some things that you can say, you know what, I walked away with more clarity or more of a understanding of God's word because of these conversations? Coming out of that, what was it about those conversations that really just kind of stood out to you that was like, oh wow, you know, that's something I haven't thought about, or you know, I'm just excited to be able to share that?
Yeah. And you know, like Bobby's humbleness and how he viewed himself was something for the books,
Mm.
because he always had this thing that he didn't feel like a lot of people would be hurt if he wasn't here, or wouldn't feel a certain kind of way if he was here. Then I think recently, obviously with his passing, he's now obviously sees from where he's at that that's completely wrong. You know what I mean? And the one thing that I could say, knowing him in the conversations that we had, especially this year in 2025, up until he recently passed, man, is that he was trying to, and he not trying to, he was doing righting a lot of the wrongs of the past that he felt he had, a lot of the broken relationships he was trying to mend. You know what I mean? He was making sure he told people that he loved them so much more. Like I say, he was personally diving deeper into God and asking more questions and wanted to know what I thought it took to possibly like get to heaven and stuff like that. Because I think as Christians, and I've talked about this with people before, but I think as Christians, like especially when somebody's passed, it don't matter who it is, somebody's going to get on that stand and be like, you know, now that this person is in heaven, now that this person is in heaven. And unfortunately, I don't think it always works like that for every single person, you know, that dies, obviously. But the one thing, and I was telling my wife about this, I'm like, I'm glad Bobby and I had those discussions and he was doing what he was doing on the tail end of his life, because I've always known that he was a believer. But the more we talked about it, the more I saw it in him and saw him walking in that light, being the salt and light of this earth, doing what he needed to do, and just being an extreme giver. You know what I mean? All that we could take with us when we pass is that in which we've given away. And I saw him doing that. He was humble, zero pride to the side. He was giving, he was seed sowing, he was trying to leave a lasting legacy for people to take with him, you know, for the time, you know, when he wasn't here. And unfortunately came sooner than any of us would he'd like it to have. But I'm very confident to think about like where he's at and trust where he's at with everything that he was doing.
Yeah.
It was
And
interesting that you said that, Dante, because not too long ago, Jody and I don't remember, it might have been after Hulk's
yeah,
passing, and we were talking about how people will do that. Now that he's gone, well, they're in heaven, they're in a better
Yeah.
place.
yeah,
And
you see all the memes, right, Mike, on Facebook of you know, all these people welcoming this
Macho
person to
Man,
in the gates. Yeah,
Owen Hart,
and
Roddy
listen,
Piper.
maybe that's happening,
Right.
but you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, not everybody gets in,
Right.
because not everybody makes the decision that they need to make, and you know, it's why it's why we have the Great Commission. It's why we go and tell the whole
Right.
world that look, these are biblical truths. And you know, people debate the Bible, they debate what's in it, they say it's contradictory, but at the end of the day, there is no work of literature, no book that has the prophecies that have all either are coming true or are true or have
Right.
happened. It's indisputable, and looking at it even from a scientific perspective. Dante, man, I tell you what, I want to thank you for being on. I thank you for your perspective with your relationship with Bobby. You know, he will certainly be missed. You know, I think so much of him. I lift his family in prayer, and I thank you for your perspective on his life. We want to have you back on too. And talk about not only what's going on in your professional wrestling career, but I want to talk about the gathering too, because I've seen some stuff on Facebook. It looks really cool. So we're going to have you back on. But I appreciate you being on with us.
Most definitely. Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all for
Pleasure.
honoring Bobby as well, and being willing to put something like this together for him. It means a lot, and I know he appreciates it.
Well, it's our honor to do that, and it's my honor to tell fans to stay tuned because coming up next is the Clash on Abundant TV with Jeff Dixon, Chris Whaley. Stay tuned.